Can you hear me? It's Marisa. Like since I was a little kid, like I was writing like little short stories, right? So, and I think that's how I've sort of always approached things. I've always like loved reading and stories. And I think when your early memories and sort of early experiences with life are shaped with a narrative framework, I don't know if it's like, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if that's how I was trained to think or that's just sort of my natural inclinations were, but it felt very easy to sort of continue. Like my best friend in high school, we were probably like 15. She was like, well, what do you think about when you're not thinking about anything, when you're not talking, when you're not reading, when you're not doing anything? And I was like, oh, I'm just like sort of telling stories in my head about people or creating stories or creating narratives. And she was very surprised by that because I don't think that's what she was like, oh, I'm just, like, I thought that's what everyone was doing all the time, was sort of like creating characters and having them do things in their imagination. And apparently that's not the case. What I have appreciated about podcasting is that someone who can be considered, an authority or someone at least worth listening to. Podcasting has allowed us to break some of those stereotypes about what someone who's worth listening to sounds like, because you can be a lot more casual, and in fact you generally want to be a lot more casual. Like when I explain to my family what I do, I go back to that idea of story, especially because so much of what I do is less of like the technical, I'm going to set up this interview between these two people and et cetera, et cetera. There is a story I want to tell. There's a story that's interesting. How do we make this work for audio, which means not only how you're saying it, but like how you engage the listener. Equal to the person who's telling the story, the reporter or the producer or the writer, but also really like is engaging to the audience. It's sort of balancing those.